Get a light on there. Hi, everyone, and welcome. My name is John Clinton with Penguin Random House, and I have just a few housekeeping items to touch on before I turn things over to our fantastic speakers. As a reminder, please keep your audio muted and your video off throughout the session. If you haven't done so already, the chat can be activated by clicking the chat icon at the bottom of your screen. Please know we've already collected questions for the speakers in advance as part of the registration process, but you can comment along and of course show appreciation to the speakers as you see fit throughout the event. For the best viewing experience here on Zoom, if you're on a computer, we suggest finding the gallery view button, which is in the upper right-hand corner of your Zoom window. Once you're in gallery view, if you hover over any of the tiles with a name on it, you should see a blue ellipsis. Click on this. That's the three little dots. Click on the three little dots and find Hide Non-Video Participants. This should clear up your screen so you only see me right now. If you're on a mobile device, you can swipe left to access gallery view, and you can toggle non-video participants by tapping More and going into your meeting settings. I think doing this is definitely helpful because then you'll only see our speakers once they come out onto the digital stage, which I'm going to ask them to do right now. So Jennifer, Andrea, Anita, Alana, Deuki, Archana, Andrew, and Ben, please start your audio and video to come out here onto the digital stage and say hello. I'm now going to turn things over to your moderator for this event, Jennifer Sin.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. We're so excited for everyone out there joining us tonight. Look at these wonderful faces here. This event is part of PRH's #Read Asian Authors campaign for AAP Heritage Month and our Books Connect Us initiative, which encourages readers to connect online and share their love of books. Tonight, we're thrilled to have this amazing group of authors join us from all over the country. During these crazy times, it feels more important than ever that we connect and strengthen our communities. And I know many people out there, including myself, has really been finding cooking as the perfect way to do that. So tonight, we're going to visit each of our authors separately, and then each will show us their favorite recipes or a pantry tour, whatever they have up their sleeves. And then at the end, we'll regroup for a Q&A panel. And one more exciting thing, we're going to have a raffle. If you stay until the end of the event, you'll have a chance to win all 6 authors. So before we dive into our demos, I'd like everyone to just introduce themselves and tell us where you are chatting from. So we'll start with Andrea.
Hey everyone, it's Andrea Nguyen, and I am chatting from Santa Cruz, California.
All right, and then Alana.
Hi, Alana Kysar. I'm in Los Angeles right now.
And Archana.
Hi, I'm Archana Mundhe. I'm from Ridgewood, New Jersey.
All right, and Deuki.
Hey, Deuki Hong. Originally from Jersey and New York, but I'm in San Francisco now.
All right, and Anita.
Hi, Anita Lo. I am out here on Long Island in New York.
And Andrew and Ben.
Hey, I'm Ben. I'm Andrew with the Boba Guys. We're here in San Francisco.
Awesome. All right, so we will kick it off by making our way to Andrea's kitchen right now. So if our other authors could mute themselves and turn off their cameras.
What do I do?
Just mute your microphone and then hit stop video in the corner there. Perfect. All right, hey Andrea.
Hey Jenna. So people are always asking me, what can I make from Vietnamese food any day? My latest cookbook that will just like kind of turn my food into a Viet direction. It's like you can give Viet food a makeover if you really master the Vietnamese dipping sauce, which we call Nuc Chấm. And so that's what I'm going to walk you through today, and also discuss ingredients and stuff. So if you guys will bear with me, I'm going to turn the camera view so that you're on my board. And so the first thing that you want to do is get some limes going and lime juice. I use limes that are practically like Kojak ball smooth, and those are like the juiciest limes. And so I'm always like picking limes, like, have my head stuck in the lime bin at the grocery store. And then I use a reamer like this. You can use a press if you want, but a reamer allows you to really like lean in. And this little gadget I have is fabulous for getting juice very fast, and it measures at the same time. So I'm going to show you.
That's a super beautiful lime, Andrea. I think that might be a California thing.
It is, girlfriend. We have beautiful produce, and I happen to live in like a produce place here in Santa Cruz. So I need about 3 to 4 tablespoons. And so this thing measures well. And the thing is that if you like pulp, go ahead and include that in your limes. When I was growing up, limes had seeds in them, and like somehow the seeds disappeared, right? And then you need to make a limeade. So a lot of recipes for nukjam say, oh, just pour everything into a jar and then just stir it up. Well, the problem is lime juice and fish sauce differ depending on your situation and products and stuff. So what I tell people,
differ in like the acidity or the saltiness.
Yes, and brand.
Okay.
So I make a limeade. So I've got like half a cup of warm water in here, and use water that you would be happy drinking with. And then I'm just going to add, at first, about 2 tablespoons of sugar. Now, if you're, into like glycemic issues, you can also use maple syrup or a different kind of sweetener. And then add your lime juice, and you want to start out making a little limeade.
And this is so you can taste it as you go.
Exactly, because limes sometimes are bitter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Made enough margaritas, like I have, that it's kind of a funny thing. And so also, and your taste buds differ. So I always hedge a little bit. So stir until you got some limeade, and then give it a taste.
So what are you tasting for? What is the balance of sour and sweet that you're going for?
You know what? It all depends. So fish sauce, the nuc dam differs from region. In Vietnam, if you're in the southern part of the country, you like things really sweet. And if you're in the northern part of the country, where my parents are from, you kind of like things kind of salty. And I guess maybe that's also about people's personalities. But so you want to choose between where you want to be. And I'm just going to add a little bit more sugar and a splash. I'm looking for a tanginess, and I can always hedge my bet by adding more. It's harder to remove the stuff. So then the next thing I'm going to do is add fish sauce once that I get the limeade taste that I want. Jen, do you have a particular brand of fish sauce that you like?
I have it here right now.
Oh my God, I'm looking in the camera now. Okay, you've got Red Boat. Okay, so
we go through these very quickly. I use it more than any other condiment in my pantry, and I would love actually to hear more about fish sauce from you. I know you've written so many articles about it and having multiple fish sauces for different uses, and I would just, what's your favorite? What do you use? Which brand for? Tell me everything.
Okay. So I'm just going to slide this over for a second. So for example, this bottle of fish sauce that I have is something special that is a single barrel production at the Red Boat factory that was gifted to me. It's been around for a while. And so when I poured it out today, it was extremely dark. I don't know if you guys can see.
Yeah, I've used this one. It's like they age it in bourbon barrel or whiskey barrel.
So
it's a little sweeter than their normal kind.
And it's got this intense umami, so you have to kind of use less, so back off. Another brand that I'm really loving these days that's from Vietnam is this one right here. It's called Sun. And I'm just going to move my audio first. So this is called Sun, and it's being made in Vietnam by a 5th generation woman who's 27 years old. And she's a generation fish sauce maker. And it's a little bit, it's not being super widely distributed, but I know that in Manhattan you can get it.
Okay.
And, people know Three Crabs. They also know Mega Chef. The ones that I'm showing you now are Asian market. So if you're coming in from, I saw someone from Atlanta, and so in Atlanta, if you go out to Buford Highway, to the Buford Highway Farmers Market, then you can get a zillion types of fish sauce, including this stuff, which is Mega Chef brand.
Oh, the Mega Chef, yeah.
Right. And it's like being distributed like crazy in the South, and it's fabulous, fabulous stuff. But by and large, you're gonna get Mega Chef Blue, which is the Vietnamese flavor, whereas the brown is the Thai one. People love Three Crabs. Some people say it's got too much sugar. Some people say they cheat because they have yeast extract, which is like MSG. But you know what? You just pick your poison.
It's all good.
It's all good. At a regular supermarket, this is a very good brand, and also this one.
Okay. Dynasty and Taste of Thai. Yeah.
What I don't like, and I very clearly say in my book, is this brand called Thai Kitchen. And it'll be okay, you guys, but you know.
Yeah.
So what you're gonna do now after you have your limeade is you're going to add your fish sauce. And you're looking really at this point at a color. And it's almost like a beautiful amber honey color. And different fish sauces are going to have impart different colors. So you really want to learn about your ingredient at this stage. And I actually have only about 2.5 tablespoons, but this stuff is so intense, I'm going to stop there. At this point, you can add your bling. So if you're adding chilies, you can chop them up. And I'm like a no-love chili chopper. And if you just noticed, I split my chili and then I'm holding on to the tip. And I'm just gonna chop it like so. Then scoot the chilies onto my knife blade and then scoop them off. I never ever actually touch the chili at all. And so I don't have to wash my hands. And nowadays gloves are kind of like a precious thing, right? So like you don't want to like use them and have to dispose of them. The other thing that you can do, go ahead.
If you can't find Thai chilies, can you use serrano or jalapeno? Can you use other chilies or a hot sauce?
Totally.
All right.
So you can go
got some rooster action.
Yeah, some sriracha action, chili garlic sauce. And this stuff here, this is actually chili garlic sauce. And in Vietnamese, it says Tương ớt tỏi Việt Nam, which means that it's Vietnamese chili garlic sauce. So this is made for like the Vietnamese palate or cuisine. Whereas sambal oelek is really, you know, it's got like that gutsy, you know, fermenty quality of Indonesian, Malaysian, Singaporean food. And it's just like got that that funk that's really fabulous. It'll work too. And then sriracha is more of a Thai flavor. So I always tell people if they're trying out Vietnamese food and they're buying the rooster stuff, try the chili garlic sauce, because I feel like that's been formulated for the Vietnamese market.
Awesome.
Yeah, and then, you know, if you want to add a little crunchy texture, you can julienne stuff. I was just thinking today, like, you know, some people don't want to julienne, by all means, you can just use a peeler and shave off carrot and add to it. And it creates kind of like a pickle. And with some texture. And of course, my mom would like totally freak out because she's like, it's gotta be done in little hair-like pieces. You know, sometimes we just need to put food
Make it easy. Yes, easy sounds good. So Andrea, tell us what you would use the sauce for, and also how long does it keep once you make it?
Well, this is a sauce that I like to make the day that I'm going to eat it. You can keep it overnight. But if you want to like do a make ahead kind of version, then I would just mix like the sugar and water and fish sauce, and then store that in the fridge. And then add your lime juice and your bling at the end of the line. Because what happens is you can keep that little combination that I made, that elixir of Vietnameseness, in your fridge for like a week, 2 weeks, and then you're ready to go. You're just going to squeeze the lime in. Lime changes over time, and if for ever any reason that your lime is bitter, add a little bit of unseasoned rice vinegar to just kind of round out the edges. And so you can use this as
That's a great tip.
Yeah, and salad dressings, you can like dipping sauce it. You can, drizzle it onto like those rice noodle bowls if you want to, or just a rice bowl. A grain bowl would be fabulous. There's so many different uses for this dipping sauce because it touches all the right flavor notes. It's kind of like it hijacks all your pleasure centers in your brain.
Oh, for sure. So Andrea, I want to remind everyone out there that you are this incredible, prolific cookbook author, and you have authored 6 cookbooks.
Yes.
Is that right? And they have this incredible range. Your first cookbook, Into the Vietnamese Kitchen, in 2006 was truly this landmark book, the first, comprehensive Vietnamese cookbook done in this modern way. And then you've had all these really amazing single subject deep dive books on Asian dumplings, Asian tofu, banh mi, and pho, which is James Beard award-winning book. And then of course your newest book, Vietnamese Any Day. And I don't want to say that the Vietnamese food any day and Into the Vietnamese Kitchen are bookends, because obviously I would love to see more books on the other bookends. But they're really interesting in that the first was, I think, more traditional. And then your newest book is really kind of all about kind of making things easier and sort of looking at, how to adapt certain ingredients to your kitchen. I would love for you to talk about, sort of the difference between what it was like writing your first Vietnamese cookbook and then your newest one. And you already touched a little bit about the grocery store aspect too, which I love. So.
Well, when my family first came here from Vietnam in 1975, there was no fish sauce at the American supermarket. And so we were making do with La Choy soy sauce, and with, Texas long grain rice. And if you flash forward, 40 plus years, so much has changed. And when I wrote my first book, it was really a tribute to the stories and experiences that Vietnamese refugee immigrant families like mine had in America. And I had not seen a book that really spoke to that. There were all of these books that spoke about Vietnamese people in like these kind of, far away places with a lot of sentimentality, which I thought was great. But I also looked at these long, convoluted ingredient lists that frankly, I made my eyes glaze over. And it didn't reflect how my family cooked and my family story. So that book was my opportunity, and it was my first book. So like a lot of first books, you think you only get one chance ever, right? Like your first record. And so I just put everything in there and did a ton of research about the history of Vietnam and to just do the cuisine justice the way that my mother taught me that it was all about, and my parents taught me, and what we held on to, but also how we adapted things as we came here to America. With Vietnamese Food Any Day, I've matured a lot as a writer, and I also now see this opportunity to have Vietnamese food be accessible to so many other people in America, because Asian food needs to be at the table, just like everything else. All the cuisine, all the other cuisines. If I'm gonna make tacos, and if I'm gonna make pizza, if I'm gonna fry chicken and make grits, I want other people to also make Vietnamese food and dumplings and tofu dishes and kimchi, because that's what America is all about. So I feel like this is an opportunity, especially because ingredients are totally available now, whether you're at the grocery store or ordering online. There is no excuse for people to be mastering this food and rating it.
And in your book, you give it's so accessible. All that, I love how you're thinking of people's grocery stores across the country. You don't need a specialty store. It's really wonderful, and I truly personally cook from your book all the time.
Well, thank you.
All right, so we are gonna go, thank you, Andrea, for this awesome demo and chat. We are gonna go to our next author, and then we'll see you at the end for our Q&A. All right, so next up, we have Anita Lo. So Anita, if you can turn your camera back on and unmute yourself, you can get talking. Anita, are you there? All right. Let's see. Hello.
Here we are.
You got it.
Oh,
Okay,
sorry,
we got you.
It wasn't working there.
No, it's working just fine. Hey, Anita.
Hey. How are you?
How are you?
Very well. I'm coming over here.
All right. I wanted to tell everyone at home that Anita and I, 7 or 8 years ago now, when we first met, I think maybe 8 years ago, we were on a trip to Senegal together, which was really amazing and fun. It was a trip that Chef Pierre Chiam put together with a bunch of chefs and journalists, and it was the first time I met Anita and was so impressed by her, and it was such a wonderful trip. And now I'm so glad I get to talk to you again here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, so Anita, what do we have going on in your kitchen right now? Okay,
so I was gonna make a little side dish from my book Solo, which came out in 2018, I believe. A lot of things in my book deal with, thank you, deal with food
Beautiful.
waste. And so I'm just gonna make this really quick broccoli stem slaw. I know a lot of you are Asian out there, and you're like preaching to the choir, but a lot of people just throw away this end part of the broccoli. But I grew up always eating it. My mom used to hand it to me as we were prepping things, just put a little salt on it, we would eat it. Or she would sometimes stir fry it, and it would never go to waste. And I was just shocked when I got to college and I saw friends of mine making broccoli and just throwing it away. So this is just a really simple side dish. And first, I'm just gonna cut off all of these florets, and I'm gonna save that for another use. Very easy. And see how I'm just sort of, yep.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, Anita, your cookbook Solo is really so well suited for these times. Obviously, a lot of people are home alone, cooking for themselves, and they're also, whether they're alone or not, really concerned about waste, and this seems really perfect for right now.
Yeah, thank you. So the broccoli stem is a little bit fibrous on the outside, so you have to peel it. So I usually just take off a little part and then pull. And eventually it all just comes off.
To the tender middle part.
Yeah. So I'm using my paring knife for this, because that's what makes sense. I can't see as well as I used to. There we go.
So the stalks are going in a slaw this time, but are there other ways that you like to use the broccoli stems?
Yeah, I mean, they're great for purees. If you were making a soup, you could, cook it up and puree it, which is one of the, we never did anything with broccoli at Anisa, but, at Anisa, I never had any food waste. Like if we had cauliflower on a dish, I would make sure that there was there was usually like a puree or something in there. So all the little bits got put into the puree, including the stem. But yeah, again, you could cut it up and stir fry it. A friend of mine made that for me in college as well, Asian. And but this you could, you just want a julienne. or just cut up. You could use, a mandolin as well, but this is how you would do it by hand.
I love the broccoli stems also because I've found during this time that it lasts a really long time in the fridge. So if you buy it and you just use the florets first, because sometimes they start to yellow first, and you leave the stalks for later, they tend to stick around in the crisper drawer for longer, especially right now as people are grocery shopping less frequently.
Yeah, and apparently food waste is about 10% of our carbon footprint. So
Wow.
I think even more important now, I mean, arguably that's one thing that we can do that could really help the planet. So there's that. For this, I need a little bit of red onion. Now, this is, in my book, I have a whole bunch of different ways of cutting things that makes it last a little bit longer. This is the root end. This is where the green growth would grow up. Especially if you're just cooking for one, you wouldn't be able to use this whole onion at once. So I like to leave the dry integument, the outer integument, that'll help keep it moist. And then I cut from the green end. And so this root end holds it together, and it just lasts a little bit longer. If it dries out, you can just shave off a little bit. You can even use a peeler.
That's really interesting. So specifically like doing it from the green end towards the root end is what is making it, part of that is what is making it last longer.
Yeah, because if I cut it this way, it'll separate and it will dry out really fast, and then you can't use it anymore. So
okay.
Yeah, so that my book is full of all different little
tips. An awesome tip.
So yeah, and then you can just cut off what you need. If you just need, I will call for like a slice of this. So this might be a little bit too much for what I'm using. But
that's such a good tip because I feel like I always have some sort of half onion in the fridge, and I have never heard that tip before. That's awesome.
Yeah. So and again, if it's a half onion this way, and it's the dry part will keep it, we'll keep the moisture in. So, all right. For that, I also need some garlic. So I'm just going to cut off that little bottom part. And then if I just press on it a little bit, it'll release the dry outer part. And I always, because I'm French trained, I always take out that green part, which—
the green.
Yeah, it can be a little bitter. And it can also, I've been told by my French chefs that it's hard to digest. Like it might give you gas. Anyway, so this is also a good way of just cutting up garlic. I use the back of my knife and I'm just mashing it, and that way.
That's a really good tip too. The way you're holding down the sort of that part of the knife with the base of your hand, and then
and then I can just go through maybe a couple of times instead of going through a lot of times, and then I finely chopped garlic, and then I've got a ripe Hass avocado. Very important that it be this bumpy type. The Florida avocados aren't as rich and they don't have as much flavor. They're good for other things, but not for this dish. So this is beautiful. Avocados are usually best if you ripen them yourselves, I think. So I'm just going to take.
And do you like ripening your avocado just on your tabletop, or do you like putting them in a bag, or do you put them in your fridge? Like, what is your best way to ripen avocados?
If you need it quicker, like if it's really, really hard and you need it tomorrow, you put it in a paper bag with like a banana. And that will hasten the ripening process. If you don't need it right away, just leave it out or put it in a bowl. And then when it's ripe, I put it into the refrigerator if I'm not going to use it right away. So this I bought last week and it's pretty perfect right now. So
during this quarantine, I discovered this guy. He's called the Avocado Guy, and I haven't used his services yet, but it's basically in New York, you can order ripe avocados for, I think, same day delivery, same day drop off or next day delivery, and you can specify how ripe you want it, if you want it to use it right then or a week. And it sounds amazing. And I've been needing to use.
Yeah, I read that article too. I think,
but I was like, this is brilliant.
Yeah.
And all the times that you're like, I want avocado tonight.
Yeah, Jean-Georges will blanch his whole avocados just for a second in boiling water, and then they don't ever turn black. Sometimes how it turns like brown or black on the outside.
Yeah,
that was something that I learned from that.
That's a great tip.
Yeah. Okay, so into this, I've got the garlic. I've got a little bit of I've got my avocado. I'm gonna get some herbs. So I have some tarragon here. And I got some parsley. You could use any sort of soft herb could work here. Basil, mint, dill, etc. So I'm just gonna.
Do you have good tips for people for storing your leftover herbs? Because I feel like that's always a problem that we have especially when you buy fresh herbs and you're using just a little bit of it. How do you help the rest of it last longer in your fridge?
Some of it, like it depends on what it is. So. I usually recommend people buy plants and then, just try to grow them, and then you don't have to keep spending, $5 a pop and then using a 1/10 of it and then ending up throwing it away. But yeah, you can wrap it in a little bit of a slightly damp paper towel, and then this is what we do in the restaurant business, and then wrap it in plastic wrap or in a little baggie, and then that will help it. Sometimes we'll put things into water, like if it's like cilantro or something, we'll put the roots in the water and then cover it with plastic as well.
Great.
But yeah, buy a plant. Okay. Garlic, this needs a little bit of anchovy. This is anchovy paste, just one of the things I like to use at home. Or you could, I would never use this in a restaurant situation, but it's a quick way of having it's better to use an actual anchovy. And it's gonna take a little bit of olive oil. This is optional because you already have the fat from the avocado, but I like the flavor. And let's put some lemon into it. Good amount of lemon.
All right.
The amounts in my book will work. I tested them myself. So here's some salt and some pepper. And then I'm just gonna mash this with a fork. And that really just becomes your dressing.
So we have a question from the audience about if you have any suggestions for a vegetarian substitute if you don't eat anchovies.
You can leave it off. I like the umami that it brings to it. I haven't really worked that much with things like nutritional yeast, but that will also bring some umami to it. You could use that. You could use, you could use a touch. It would change it. And I'm not quite sure. I would just leave it out, honestly, yeah. Okay. But there we go. I've added my stems, and I'm going to add some of this
red onion.
I'm going to season. Everything has to be seasoned. And then I'm just going to mix it up.
Awesome.
And try not to get it all amazing for you guys.
You're amazing, perfect, Julian.
Well, I wouldn't call it perfect. But
awesome.
I did it. Okay. And then that's it. I'm going to plate it over here. I have right in my garden, I'm growing these chives, and they're beautiful.
Well, thank you, Anita. That looks amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, thank you so much for all your great tips.
Thank you.
I love it. So we will see you at the end for the Q&A.
Okay, great.
Okay, thank you. Talk soon. All right, next up, we have Alana Kysar. Alana, if you can unmute and turn on your camera.
Okay.
Hey, Alana.
Are we all?
Oh, I love this setup.
Okay. So we are gonna make butter mochi from my cookbook, Aloha Kitchen.
Awesome.
And
Alana, I have to say that your cookbook is so beautiful. And when I dove into it, I was like, there's so many things that I want to make out of it. And I ended up making the Spam fried rice, which is so delicious. I have some of it left over in the refrigerator. I should bring it, but here, and I just
it was hard to get Spam for a minute. I'm surprised you have it.
This was actually my Mother's Day wish. On Mother's Day, I was like, I need to go to Sunrise Mart. It's literally, we went to Sunrise on Mother's Day because I was like, my Mother's Day wish is to find Spam. And they didn't have it there, but I ended up finding it. But I have to say, congratulations on such a beautiful book that is so transportive and wonderful. So let's get into this butter mochi.
Okay, so I picked this recipe because I feel like a lot of people have been making it during this time, and it's magically gluten-free because it's got that sweet rice flour, which is nice. And I think a lot of people must be using Mochiko in general because it is so hard to find it. I had a friend who picked up a few boxes for me, but I panic bought some Mochiko from nuts.com too. So you can get it there if you can't find it where you are.
Awesome. Yeah, I feel like now is the time a lot of people are embracing a lot of project cooking, and things like mochi is the dish that people really miss, and I'm sure they're making it a lot at home.
Yeah, and you know what? The thing is it's so easy to make. So I'm doing a half recipe today just because I've already baked it off so I can show you what it looks like. So this is the second half of it, and it's just, I'm just gonna put milk, and this should be skim milk, and I didn't have it, so it's whole milk with some water. And then I've got some eggs.
That's a great, if you could pause for a second, that's a great substitution, because I feel like at home, since people are cooking, are grocery shopping less, so instead of whole milk, instead of skim milk, you used whole milk with water. Do you remember the ratio that you used?
Honestly, I just poured some milk in and then poured some water in, and there we are. Yeah. And
that's perfect.
Vanilla. And the reason why I do skim milk versus whole milk is because you've got like a fair amount of fat because of the butter. And I just found that this and the coconut milk. And so this yields like just a better overall consistency.
Mm-hmm.
We don't need the extra calories in that case.
Yeah.
Okay, so then, go ahead.
If people are non-dairy, could they use a okay.
Yes, someone told me that they used oat milk with great success, the same with almond milk. So I think use what you got.
Great.
Okay, so then that's mixed, easy. Next, bigger bowl. And you're gonna do, in this case, half a box, but if you're doing a full recipe, a whole box of Mochiko. And this is my absolute favorite brand. So
could you, show it up to, awesome.
And then I've got baking powder and kosher salt in here, and a bunch of sugar, just a cup. And then I am just gonna whisk this guy up.
And the Mochiko, what other dishes can you use that sweet rice flour for?
Well, you can obviously make other mochi things, but in my cookbook, I have a recipe for Mochiko Chicken, which I don't have a favorite recipe in my cookbook, but if I did have a favorite recipe, it would be that one.
That would be the one. We won't tell the other ones. We won't tell the
Okay, so we are whisked, and then I'm just gonna switch either to like a wooden spoon or this guy, and it's basically I'm switching because if I use a whisk, I end up like incorporating a lot of air, and the air makes it so that when you're baking it up, you've got like giant pockets of air pushing it up. Yeah. Okay. You don't want that. So that wet into the dry, and then just mix it up. And the whole thing is just till it's incorporated. So like, don't go to town on this. Just like mix so you don't see any more clumps, and then you're good.
And can you add different flavorings to this? This is like the OG version.
Yeah, so what's been really fun is, you know, so many people have been baking at home, and so they've been kind of putting their own spins. And so a lot of people are doing matcha, which is fun. And then yesterday, a woman did like a ube version with like an ube flavoring, and that sounded amazing. So yeah, you can absolutely feel free to riff. But this
so something like matcha, you would just mix in the matcha powder with the dry ingredients, or if it's ube, you would mix it in with the wet ingredients. It seems very forgiving. Awesome.
It's so easy to kind of customize it. I bet you could put like, I don't know, I bet you could put chocolate chips. You could do a bunch of things. Make this yours. Okay, so we're smooth mostly. And now melted butter, which has solidified a bit, but we're in. And coconut milk.
Oh yeah. Yum.
And then you're just gonna
you would be using full fat coconut milk?
Yes, absolutely. My favorite brand was not available, so I'm using, I think it's 365, and that works great.
What is your favorite brand? Because I do find that coconut milks, they are so different. Like they really come out of that can differently. What's your favorite brand?
I don't actually have a favorite canned one, but in my pantry section in my cookbook, I have showed it to you, I believe. Maybe I did not.
Oh, was it the Choi? Is it the?
Yeah.
I feel like I remember it from looking at the book. Yeah.
I have. Oh, there. It's this one.
Yes. Yep.
Can you see it? That is my favorite one.
Yep. All right.
But get what you can get. And then once it's mixed up, and like, I don't know, how long did this take me? 2 minutes? Didn't take very long. Make sure it's all incorporated. And I already prepped it, but it's just, if you're doing a half recipe, it's just an 8x8 pan I found works best, and I buttered it. And I really, really, really buttered the corners, because that kind of like,
that's where it gets stuck.
Yeah.
All right.
And then just pour it right in. And you can see how smooth it is. So you don't need that whisk.
This seems like a great dish to like bring to friends or a potluck when those happen again. How far ahead can you make this?
I'd say it's best made day of, because you have like this magical like crisp crust. It's still good the next day, but it's like the crust transforms and it's almost like a soft melty crust. So I guess whatever it depends on what you're going for. Yeah. And then
pretty much make it and then eat it in stages and enjoy
exactly. And then this is the important part. You kind of have to tap it down a few times to get up all those air bubbles, because the number one message I get from people when they're making this recipe is it's in the oven, and I get a photo of it like giant puff up clouds all over the place, and they're like, I messed it up. What did I do wrong? And the answer is you didn't do anything wrong. There's just a bunch of air in there. And even if you wrap it all out, it'll still puff up, but at least it puffs up evenly, which is the goal.
It'll still be delicious.
Yeah, truly. So we're set. And then I top mine with like a flaky, unsweetened coconut flake action. And that's just to give that like magical crust. And it's also a vehicle for what I think is one of the most important things, and that is flaky salt. So Yeah, I just take a little bit. This is Maldon, I think, and sprinkle it on top, and it's like that sweet, salty magic.
Yeah, it's a little crunch at the end, a little salty bite.
And
Awesome.
that's it. This is just gonna go in my oven right now.
All right.
And because it's magic.
Through the magic
got
of
some
Zoom
made.
television.
And that's it.
Awesome. Those look beautiful, and I love you have them all individually done. Well, thank you
These
so
are
much,
going
Alana.
elsewhere, so yeah, they're ready to go.
Perfect. Right, this is wonderful. Thank you so much, and we will see you at the end for the Q&A.
Sounds good.
Bye. All right. Up next, we have Deuki. Deuki, can you unmute your micro? Hello. The third Boba guy.
This is one of my favorite cookbooks out right now. Is it a cookbook or a drink book? It's a very great book. Shameless plug. Very shameless.
It is, and we're gonna keep shamelessly plugging it later too. It really is a wonderful book.
I should get up and cook now, right? 1 second. Here we go.
If you want, so you can chill there too.
Yes, my roommate is gonna help.
Awesome.
Do some demos first. Here we go.
All right. Koreatown, written with Matt Rodbard. It is a classic. I've seen so many people cooking from this book during this period of time. I don't know if you've noticed that too. I'm sure you have. But it's been amazing to see. It also fueled my need to find spam, because people were making the army stew and posting on Instagram, and I was like, I need to find spam to make this.
It's really hard right now, apparently, to find spam. And we run like a bakery, and it's like super hard. They're like, "Where's my musubis?" And we're like, "We don't have spam." But yeah,
single thing of spam.
It's been really encouraging, seeing people cook from our cookbook. We came out 2016, 4 years ago, and I still get tagged on recipes that they make and stuff. So it's really encouraging that this is a cookbook that people cook from. So it's awesome.
Absolutely. I think people are probably definitely missing their favorite Korean spots. And this is the perfect way to recreate a lot of those dishes at home. So what do you got for us tonight?
Today, it's going to be really quick. So it's just going to be hot stew. So kind of the most iconic Korean dish is probably kimchi. And then with that is probably kimchi stew. So we're going to do a version of kimchi stew. It's like a casserole stew kimchi. So I made homemade kimchi. So this is our.
Oh yeah, you got the pot going on. Let's get a look into that pot.
Yes, it's homemade.
Oh,
it's homemade. Or I might have bought it and put it in this fancy jar. You'll never know.
We'll never know through the magic of Zoom. We don't know.
But yes, it's homemade, and it's probably fermented for about 2 weeks, a week and a half, 2 weeks. And that's kind of perfect. And you kind of let it out and let it ferment. For kimchi stew, you really want fermented. It's called 묵은지 in Korean, which is way fermented kimchi. That's perfect for stew. Fresh kimchi is good for table eating and eating it fresh. So I would recommend, if you're making this dish, to use old kimchi or leave it out for 2-3 days.
Yeah, and you want it to be old because you want that extra strong flavor because you're adding a lot of other stuff to it. Okay, great.
So we are using this cast iron because it's a cast iron, or I might not have a pot. And so I'm going to call it a cast iron kimchi stew today. Here we go. So we have stock boiling or water boiling. You can use water if you don't have. Stock is also good too. Stock would be better, but anything works. I would say cabbage. So it's not really that serious. You guys kind of go as.
So that's chopped up cabbage and scallions?
Scallions, yeah. If you have onions,
right.
that works too. Just a good base. And you just kind of get it cranking. Let it cook for a little bit. Add the kimchi. Let that cook for a little bit. This is the seasoning. So, Jay, our beautiful cameraman here, we have minced garlic, Korean chili pepper powder, and a little bit of brown sugar. There's a little debate here. I add a little bit of sugar to my kimchi stew. Like, it's not enough for you to taste it, but it kind of brings out, there is a sweetness in kimchi that I think a lot of people don't know about, but it really helps out just bringing, it makes kimchi taste more like kimchi. That culinarily chew, there's more chefs.
I think it is. It's like, I feel like a lot of Asian cooking has sugar in it, stir fries, and it just balances the salt and it brings out the salt. Yeah.
You've added too much, so don't go too crazy. Here we go. It's boiling. Cabbage should be wilting. You can add it. It's really like I don't want to say fail proof because I've seen it messed up, but it really should be pretty
nearly fail proof.
Yeah, it's nearly fail proof. Put everything in the pot, let it boil, taste accordingly, and then go for it. We're gonna go, and then we're gonna add some seasoning. So we'll go from here. We added a lot of kimchi, which is good because it's the kimchi stew.
Yep.
But we are now a little bit of minced garlic. Garlic obviously in the kimchi, so just kind of bring that out. And Koreans really like garlic, so go for it. Depending on how spicy and how intense you like it, you could add your Korean chili pepper powder, Mochiko, and like we'll add half of the sugar. That's it.
If you can't find Korean chili powder, can you substitute, or you shouldn't? What do you think?
I would say don't make kimchi stew. I mean, you can do it without.
That's okay. Yeah.
Korean chili pepper powder. It just makes it better and more like deeper, richer, kind of that spicier. But it's not necessary. But if you don't have kimchi, there's no substitute for this dish.
Okay. So how long do you simmer that stew before it's ready?
I would say, depending on how big your pot is, how much you're cooking, you'll know because the kimchi will start kind of, is wilting the right word? It'll be softer and more kind of tender. The cabbage would have wilted, the onions, all the kind of accoutrements you got, mushrooms. We're gonna keep it somewhat traditional here, but I would say 10 minutes, not even 7 minutes.
All right.
We shall see. Hopefully by then.
And you can add other ingredients that if you're not going completely traditional, if you have other sort of ingredients kicking around in your fridge, would that be okay to add like different vegetables or little odds and ends of things? Or is that a no-go?
So there's like many different kinds of kimchi, and there's also like a lot of different variations of kimchi stew. My mom probably makes really good like the best kimchi stew I've ever had. She's also not a great cook, so don't get it mistaken. She's like not a great cook at all. She just really makes like
okay. Sorry, Mom.
Mom's not watching this, hopefully. And she like hates it when I keep saying that, but it's true. And she adds stuff, but for her, she adds a lot of like meat to it because I like meat. So she'll add like, you can add pork belly. You can keep it vegetarian. Today we're gonna keep it vegetarian. Yes, we are. And we're just gonna let it go. Mix a little bit. Mix. Oh, smells good. It smells pretty legit, right, Jay?
It does.
Jay is my roommate. Is a very big fan of kimchi stew. He's had it for the first time last week. He's gonna have it again.
That's amazing.
Kind of let it go, and if you want it darker, like this is the whole point of cooking, right? Like if you want it sweeter, if you want like keep adding and taste. Like how I like my kimchi stew might not be the way you like your kimchi stew. So.
And how do you like your kimchi stew? A little darker and sweeter, or?
You know what? Might be a little taboo, and stay with me here. I'm adding dumplings, vegetable dumplings.
Oh yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you too. Yeah.
Can I be honest? I did a demo thing yesterday, like a dumpling demo thing, and I'm plating it exactly the way. God, I'm a hack. Here we go. Some rice cakes because Avi, delicious.
Oh yeah.
I'm plating it exactly the way I plated it yesterday.
And are these are the rice cakes and the dumplings are they like ready to go pantry, like freezer ingredients?
Yeah, totally. Freezer friendly.
Yeah, freezer ready.
Yeah, it's totally ready. So you asked how I like my kimchi stew. Koreans, there's two schools here. There's people that are all about it, and then there's people that are like, what did you just do to my kimchi stew? I actually had butter. I added a very same thing with sugar, like to taste, not a crazy amount, but right at the end, I just kind of finish it off with butter.
Like rounds it a little.
But it like makes it really nice and unctuous and kind
Yeah.
of rounds it. So
Yeah.
that's my little, don't spread the word,
Awesome.
because a lot of people that be
It's a
not so
secret.
happy. But here we go. We're gonna let the dumplings cook a little bit, the rice cakes cook a little bit, a lot of it.
That looks delicious.
Looks legit. All right, I'm gonna do a non-functional garnish, little scallion action.
All right.
So right at the end, in about like a couple minutes, I'll add butter. I'll cut some scallions because, you know, we're trying to be fancy here. That's what we're about.
It's some fancy quarantine cooking. Oh, you got that cutting on the bias. Very fancy.
That's what we're about here. We don't
You gotta feel special if you can't go out.
exactly
You
like
gotta,
treat yourself,
you gotta
know?
bring it home. Yeah.
Sometimes you need to buy a scallion cut because you deserve it. It's been a tough month, a couple months for people. All right, this is looking pretty legit. I would say cook it a little bit longer, let it go. I only have a certain amount of time, so I'm being more sensitive. But I say cook this for another 2-3 minutes, and you're good to go.
Right.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Awesome.
Here we go. Butter time. Butter time. Butter. Butter.
That butter. Butter. This looks amazing.
That was
This is some 10-minute cooking. I love it.
That was very easy. Very easy. No stress. I wasn't trying to cook an egg dish today, and I ran out of eggs or anything like that.
You know, I was gonna try to cook the egg dish with you, and then before this, I was like, I don't have eggs. And then when you said you didn't have eggs, it made me feel
You not
better.
have eggs too? Like I just assumed that
I also don't have eggs. Yeah, it's next time.
one of those
Right.
things.
Well, thank you so much, Deuki. This looks awesome. And we will see you again at the end for the Q&A.
Thank you, Jennifer. See you later.
All right. See you.
Bye.
All right. Next up, we have Archana Mundhe. Archana, can you please unmute yourself and turn on your camera? Hello.
Hi,
How are you?
doing good. I'm drooling over Deuki's stew right now. So good. I love Korean food.
Well, I love Indian food, and it probably is probably the number one thing I miss during this time of restaurants not being open the way they used to be. And just the other week, I made your gobi Manchurian from your blog, Ministry of Curry, and it was so delicious.
Thank you.
So I'm so excited to talk to you tonight. What do we have going on there?
So I'm going to make a dessert drink today. It's called Rose Faluda, and it's basically takes me back to my childhood days in India on like hot summer nights. Super easy dessert. It basically, it's a Persian drink that came to India in the 16th century and then was developed in the Mughal Empire. Super easy dish to make. You can rather drink dessert to make. Doesn't really need too much cooking. One of the things that I did cook beforehand are these corn vermicelli noodles. So they're sold in Indian grocery stores, Amazon, and here is a packet for that. Super inexpensive. Faluda sev, yeah, and it's basically corn or tapioca vermicelli. So if you have thin noodles, it's just that, takes like 3 to 5 minutes in boiling water. And then the next ingredient that's sort of key in this recipe that I really wanted to highlight are these sweet basil seeds. I don't know if you've heard about them, but they're really trending right now. They're very similar to chia seeds. It's like a superfood, nutrient rich, omega-3s, magnesium, all the good stuff. The only difference between the sweet basil seeds and the chia seeds is that you have to soak the sweet basil seeds, and it takes less than 5 minutes to soak them. And I have them soaked here. So they're all black when they're dry. But then once you soak them, they get plumped up and like become gelatinous like that, but still have that crunchy bite inside.
Still in the middle. Yeah.
So those are basically the two main ingredients. So I'm just gonna start assembling the drink. So you want to use some sort of a tall glass or like a ice cream float sort of a glass. And then you can just layer it any way you want. So I'm gonna start with like 2 heaping tablespoons of the soaked sweet basil.
And that was just soaked in water? What was it soaked in?
Yeah, just soaked in cold water. So if you soak a tablespoon of it in half a cup of water, you get enough for 2 servings. And again, you can add as much or as little as you want. And then the next thing you want to do is add in these soaked noodles. And
the noodles, were they also just soaked in water?
The noodles were soaked in hot water. So you boil hot water and soak it in there for like 5 minutes or so. Drain out, put it in cold water. And both of these things you can prep ahead for like 2-3 days. So if you have a party or something, you have everything ready to go. And again, I'm showing it in a bigger cup, but many times I'll serve this for parties and I'll have smaller cups, like 4 to 6 ounce cups. And I'll just make a whole tray and I'll layer the basil seeds and the vermicelli in it and keep it ready. And then you just add your cold ingredients on top of it and you have a dessert ready in 5 minutes. So the next thing that I'm going to add to this that makes this dish royal is the rose syrup. This is again available in all the Indian grocery stores and also on Amazon.
And show us up close. And this is different from rose water.
So it's like sugar in it. Yeah. It has sugar in it. And if you have rose water, you can use that. Just add a little bit more sugar to it. And obviously this also has food coloring. So it turns it into like a really pretty fun color. So
that's the party.
Yeah. So with the rose syrup, you can add as much or as little as you like. So I add about a tablespoon of it.
Okay.
And then the next thing to add is milk. So you can add low-fat milk, you can add skim milk. If you want to make this dairy-free, you can add soy milk, almond milk, anything you like. So I'm going to go ahead and add milk. And then the next thing I'm going to add is some vanilla ice cream on top of it. So
yeah, my eyes went straight to, I was like, I see a Ben and Jerry's.
Ben and Jerry's. I mean, any vanilla ice cream really works. So here
this
is
looks
a
amazing.
Nice scoop of ice cream. And then you can garnish it with something really fun or just drink it like this. So when you serve it, like you can still see the layers. I mean, obviously the vermicelli, like, I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah, we gotta hook you up with the Boba Guys.
Yes, and
so
then
this is some beautiful layered drink for the Boba Guys.
Then the next thing I like to do is just add some sliced pistachios, and a little bit of rose petals if you have them. But if you don't have them, you don't have to put it.
Oh, beautiful.
And that's basically it. Takes no time to make it. And then you can serve it with a spoon and a straw. So you have something to eat the noodles. And I'm just going to go ahead and start mixing and you'll see how pretty it looks.
Oh, wow.
And the basil seeds get mixed in. They have a nice crunchy texture. And the noodles are like soft and silky, but they still have a bite to it. And so do the basil seeds. They have like a nice crunchy bite to it. So a super easy summer drink. Super easy to make, and that's it basically, you know.
Awesome. And it's perfect to go with your recipes from Essential Indian Instant Pot. I see you have the book there if you want to show it.
Yes, perfect to go with all the spicy curries and the rice dishes and all of that stuff.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Archana.
Thank you.
Delicious. All right, we will see you at the end for the Q&A.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Bye. All right. Up next, we have Andrew and Ben, the Boba Guys.
What's up?
Hey guys. All right.
Hello.
So
Hey.
I'm gonna try to make this with you. I'm gonna grab my ice and my milk from the fridge.
Oh, okay, awesome.
Tell everybody what you guys are gonna make for.
Okay, today we're gonna try at least one recipe, if not two. But the first one is gonna be the matcha, which is the most well-known recipe of ours. Our book that Deuki, our model, our spokesperson Deuki Hong had talked about before. This is a strawberry matcha, but today we don't have enough time to do the strawberry puree. So we're gonna go and make a basic matcha latte that you can make at home, which is super easy. And so what you need will be in our case, it's gonna be a lot of tools. So you're gonna use a matcha whisk. You're gonna have a measuring cup. Our sweetener will be a kiramitsu that we make in-house. Kiramitsu is basically a black honey, but we make ours out of agave. But it's like a roasted, a darker molassesy sweetener that in this case has low glycemic index, which is great. Our milk of choice today will be Oatly. We're gonna use oat milk. And then we're gonna put it in the cup. So you got everything, Jen?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've got things.
Awesome. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna learn how to make matcha, which is the matcha top first. So if you have your measuring cup, we generally use a heaping teaspoon of matcha. So so a heaping teaspoon of matcha.
I made my matcha thing before.
What's your favorite drink?
Oh, I do. I love the classic strawberry matcha one that you guys do. It's like the first time I had it, I was like, this is amazing. This is incredible. The lines here in New York are very long for the book. Every time it's just like, feels like the coolest place to be. And when I got one for the first time, I was just like, this really hits the spot. All right.
So our New York lines are kind of insane. So especially at this time of year when it's so hot. Well, matcha is a great drink. You can have both hot or cold. For those who don't know, matcha is a green tea that is essentially, how do you say, pulverized? It's milled. So the actual method is a milling method. I always do the beauty blogger. This is my beauty blogger pose right there. It's a heaping teaspoon, and you can always tell how great a grade of matcha in two different ways is. One way is you really look at the color of matcha. What a really good matcha has more of an umami, very, I wouldn't say vegetal, but very strong umami taste to it. And it just feels very fresh. And then you can also tell by color. So you're gonna see the different color and kind of like the taste. And our grade is, we use an organic premium grade. There's different grades. There's like ceremonial grade, which is really, really very bougie. And most people don't use this at home. They're usually using some form of a culinary grade, which you can buy on Amazon or on our website, teapeople.com for, about 20, 30 servings. Usually it's about 50 to 80 cents a serving. So we're gonna have about 50 milliliters or a couple ounces of hot water. Usually it's 170 degrees. So a lot of people ask, how hot should you mix matcha with? And you don't want to cook matcha, because matcha, if it's too hot, it'll start making it very astringent. So what we do is we do a matcha paste. So it's going to have the consistency of a peanut butter, like it's very, it's a paste because we try to get rid of clumps. We're doing this without a sift or a filter. And sometimes if you see our stores, we filter it because we have to make, about a couple hundred drinks an hour. But when you're making it at home, you don't want to just wash a filter. So you just do this without it. So this is about,
if you don't have a thermometer, what is a good way to know you're sort of in the range for the temperature? Like if you're just bringing water to boil in a kettle, do you like turn it off and wait 5 seconds? Is there sort of an easy way to figure it out?
We generally wait a minute after boiling. So that's exactly what we did here. My hot water pot boils. It doesn't have temperature. Although I do have like gooseneck somewhere, but I didn't use it for here. And then, yeah, you usually will be about a minute per, I mean, this is I think 6-cup kettle that I boiled 6 cups. So it's usually about a minute and it'll come down below 200 degrees Fahrenheit. Anything way over 200 is really when you'll start making and changing the nature of the matcha. But if you're around like even high 180s, it's technically okay. Because every once in a while, our team uses the wrong temperature water and we've tasted it. So you want to whisk the matcha. Some people do it in different motions. Some people go up and down. Some people make different letters like a M or a Z. For me, I kind of go up and down and you get like a micro foam. Just like if any baristas in the house, you get a good foam. So I made the paste. If you don't
have a matcha brush, are you okay with doing it with just a regular whisk?
Yeah, you could use a regular whisk too. A lot of people use also the those aerator whisks that you can use for coffee. It's the one that looks like
lattes.
A latte.
Yeah. Cool.
You can do a lot of those. So even some people, you could technically use a fork. I mean, if you whisk fast enough, the goal is just to make sure that the tea itself, for those who don't know, the matcha is the tea that's grinded up. Most of the time when you steep tea, you're not drinking the actual leaf itself. But with matcha, you're consuming the entire leaf and it's going into your body, which is why it's so great for you, because it's one of the highest concentration of antioxidants of any natural ingredient in the world, which is why the Japanese, which is where it's from, live so long. So that's the matcha. I got the matcha ready. And now we're going to make the bottom part, which is really easy.
I have mine.
We made boba. So we didn't have enough time to make boba, but in this case, boba had already been made. For those who are always asking, a lot of the Clarkson audience I know has asked, this is what raw boba looks like. Raw boba is actually just like a powder. It's primarily tapioca starch. And then it has a little bit of like sugar and it's binded together and it's a little on the moist side. So, and it's perfectly safe. A lot of people think it's made out of like some random gelatin or whatever, but it's just a starch. It is very, a little caloric, but it's
the meal. A boba drink it can be a meal.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm going to scoop some of the boba. Usually you want to make about 1 cup for every 4 servings. To make boba is very easy. If you ever find boba online, generally the most boba brands, including ours, is 30 minutes boil, 30 minutes sitting. And then it's sitting in a syrup. So this is actually a brown sugar simple syrup bath. And so I have ready.
This was a question from the audience. Where are your online sources for boba?
Good question. You can now go to, I think we just sold out, but we have it on and off at thebobakit.com where we sell our boba, which this is the actual, I have one of the rare boxes. So this is our boba kit where we sell, we're not trying to sell here, but it has everything you can make your boba stuff at home.
That is perfect for right now. Yeah.
And it includes the raw bag of boba. So
awesome.
You do that, or you can find it on Amazon. There's a lot of great places on Amazon that you could buy it. Usually it's going to be about $20 for what you call a 6-pound bag.
Okay.
$20 or $30. So we got the boba, and then I'm going to get some ice. We're going to make a latte form. So I usually do about half a cup of ice here. So this is a pint.
I have my ice. I don't have the boba, but I have ice.
Okay, no worries. You can do it without the boba. Equally as enjoyable.
I know. I'm a little sad I don't have the boba, but.
And what we're gonna do is we're gonna line the. I have Kiramitsu. I'm not sure what your sweetener is, but I have Kiramitsu on my side.
I have honey.
You got honey? Okay. I'm gonna do about a two-ish tablespoons. This is a teaspoon, but I'll eyeball it. It's really
okay. You're just.
But what I do,
like drizzling it in the glass.
Yeah. So the technique that we were trying to show you, you have 2 different angles of it. Is that we call it coating the glass in the book, where a lot of something we're known for is kind of like making drinks really aesthetically pleasing. So I usually hold my like spoon or honeycomb, my honey stick up, and then I just rotate the glass like that. And so then it coats the side. So a lot of people move the spoon, but it's actually moving the glass.
That's a good tip. It's like when you're in kindergarten, they tell you to move the paper, not the scissor, when you're cutting out like an alligator from the paper.
Exactly.
All right. Pro tip.
Ben and I have made probably like too many drinks over the years. So unfortunately, yeah, we know this, but we can do eyes closed. So your coated glass will look like this. And then you get your milk of choice. And I use an oat milk in this case. And you're going to pour about 8 to 9 ounces of oat milk. And you're going to leave some room on the top. So I'm making, in this case, a 16-ounce glass, which is a pint. So
okay.
This is right now my boba, the Kiramitsu coated, and then you can see the lined wall. And then I'm leaving about.
I kind of got that going on. Yeah.
Oh, that's perfect. Yeah, that looks great. And then you're going to grab your matcha.
Right.
And then you are now going to what you call hit the ice. That's what we say. So a lot of people ask, how do you layer properly? In Boba Guys, we layer by. And if you're a bartender, any bartenders in the house, there's like a poussey method, which is usually the density of layers and how thick each of the layered sections are. So in this case, your top layer is tea, which is in this case the lightest and least dense liquid, whereas your thickest is the syrups at the bottom. So that's kind of how we get the art of our layering. And then you hit the ice.
Okay.
And when you hit the ice, it also diffuses across the plane like horizontally, so it doesn't go vertically, and then it keeps the layers even more, because if you don't hit the ice, the tea that you're pouring will go right through the drink. And that's generally how we get our layering, and then it marbles a little bit.
Awesome. Wow, this is really I think
so cheers.
Cheers.
We were gonna have another drink, but I know Ben was maybe jumping another one, but I think we're running low. So we had another Hong Kong style drink, but I think for the sake of time, maybe we can do.
Okay. We can say that again.
Oh, for the sake of time, would you like to just go into Q&A? Because we had a double drink, but
I think this is great.
The Boba Guys.
This is delicious.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, and we're excited to see Ben next. All right. Thank you so much. This is delicious. This will carry me through this last Q&A section.
Yeah,
all right. So if everybody can, all our authors can turn their mics back on and their video back on, we'll all get back together for a Q&A section. Hello, everybody. All right. I think we have everybody. Deuki? I think we just did Deuki. Are you there?
Technology.
All right. Awesome. This is so great. Wow. So many great recipes, so many great tips. I really learned so much and love talking with all of you. So I want to start off with a seemingly big question that feels a little big, but it's a fun night and we're here all together and these issues are important. So authors like yourselves who have cookbooks with a really strong cultural point of view are often looking to introduce techniques and recipes of your heritage to a wider audience. And the question is, if that is the goal, if that goal is met, what does success look like? And when does something that feels like cultural appreciation or inspiration become appropriation? Does anyone want to start? Andrea?
Sure. I didn't, know how I raised my hand like in class. I think that cultural appropriation is oftentimes seen too much as a one-way thing. And I think that even when, I think it was Deuki who mentioned the army stew, And my thought is that that was a situation where, you know, Koreans took like these foreign ingredients and just like created this really fun thing that became so intrinsically part of their cuisine. And even though there were like these foreign influences on Korea, just like there have been foreign influences on Vietnam throughout its history, taking something that's foreign and making it your own and turning it around and really owning it is appropriation and is cultural survival. And I think that we need to think of it not just like people taking things from us, but also people learning to appreciate it with depth and context. And that to me is really what I think a lot of us are trying to do here. You know, with basil seeds, for example, I saw the comments. It's like, oh, Burmese, and you know, I grew up with basil seeds too. And my sister told me that they were toad eyes I was eating. I mean, there's all this stuff that, you know, like helping people connect the dots. And I think that that's what we're trying to do, to make people understand that we're all part of humanity.
I'd like to say that I think the problem with cultural appropriation is really, you know, who gets to profit from these cultures. You know, when you look at what's happened in the United States, some of the people that are making, you know, Asian foods or foods from their heritage are not getting the same type of respect as the people who've have white skin who are doing the same thing, not of their heritage, but of other people's heritage. And that's where we run into problems. That being said, you know, it's not always the fault of the person that's appropriating the cuisine. I feel like I've appropriated a lot of cuisines on some level. And as an Asian American who grew up in a very multicultural home, I think it makes sense that other people, especially in this country where we're so diverse, that we, you know, appropriate and take on other cuisines and other cultures.
Yeah, just to add on to that, we got a lot of whether it's mostly good, but a lot of hot discussions about a section in our book where we specifically talked about appreciation and appropriation, where and I hate to go controversial, but I don't know if Ben and we actually don't even like talking about it because we don't think it's about either. Because the hard part is, maybe even to what Anita is saying, is like so much of food in our culture it's a little more nuanced. It's like, if we're Taiwanese Chinese, can I use kiramitsu because I'm not Japanese? Can I fuse kiramitsu with a Latin flavor because we grew up in Latin neighborhoods, but we're Asian? Can a white person make boba? Well, what if they grew up in San Gabriel Valley and they married somebody in Idaho and they moved out there and they said, there's no boba shops in Idaho. Can they then, I would gladly teach them if they're trying to preach the boba gospel in Idaho. And I think for us, what we said, it's not about appreciation. It's not about appropriation. It's more about attribution. You know, we in music, we look at like somebody like Bruno Mars, where you grew up as a kid in Hawaii and he takes inspiration from Prince, Michael Jackson, and certain sounds from a certain genre. But he always goes back and says, this is how I grew up. This is where I got it from. And he's always honoring and attributing where it's from. And I think if that is the case, I do think we are more on the side of, you know, that sounds more like appreciation and it sounds more like you're giving people credit and you're not taking. I think the problem with appropriation, which is where it goes down a whole separate rabbit hole, is it gets into, well, who started it? Where's the origin? And it's so hard. Like most things go back to, then the oldest civilization wins. Chinese and the Greeks and the Egyptians. Everything comes back to those three. Then, you know, is every noodle person going to go back to the Chinese person who's going to be like, we win? You lose that argument. So we think the place where we land is if more people had empathy and honored and went back in time and it's kind of, I think in the book we write, there's a site called genius.com where if you listen to hip hop or rap lyrics or any pop culture, it says where the lyric gets its reference. If you did that for food,
That's a really good idea for a please go do that.
I don't think we're in
a really good idea.
disagreement at all, by the way.
Yeah.
No, and I think it goes back to what Andrea said about doing it with depth and context. And it sounds like there are a lot of food writers and editors out there and chefs who want to do this without the sort of quote Christopher Columbus effect. And Alana, I know in your book you talk because Hawaiian cuisine, local Hawaiian cuisine has so many influences, and you really make this distinction between local Hawaiian versus Hawaiian, which I found really interesting. If you want to talk about that more.
I mean, being from Hawaii, I don't think I necessarily looked at anything as like, this is Japanese or Chinese or Korean. It was just like, these are the things we eat, and these are all the things that we have in Hawaii. And so for me, when I think about cultural appropriation and appreciation and attribution, I'd say like attribution is key for sure. But like for me, some of these dishes, I didn't necessarily even know their origins until I went down the rabbit hole. And so I'd say I've had a unique upbringing in Hawaii, and this was something that I wasn't necessarily aware of until I came out into the rest of the world.
I mean, Jennifer, one thing I wanted to add, like when talking about this, and this is the kind of like, we actually talk about it in our book too, like Matt Robert and I doesn't get enough credit, and I take all the credit, which is awesome. But he's actually a lot of the brain behind kind of Koreatown and how the story was told and messaged. And I remember he asked me like, hey, what do you want out of this? You know, beginning when I was 2014, when we were starting this. And I think it was very simple. I think for us, we were just like, can we get a, we just want to be a part of the conversation, which back 6 years ago, I don't know how much we were a part of the conversation. I think, you know, Korean culture, Korean food really did blow up, and maybe it was on the upswing when we started, but pretty much in my head was, can a family in Kansas, like a really traditional American family, whatever that means these days, but like a family in Kansas, from Kansas, they ask, hey, what do you want for dinner? Right now, I think, yes, you can have Italian, American, Chinese is definitely a part of like, it's not so, you know, Japanese, that's not so out of the norm. And for us, we just want Korean to be in that conversation eventually. And that's why we traveled and did all of that kind of hard work, which everybody and all the authors did here. So is that appropriation? Like for me, I'm torn because like even, you know, Bin and Chow, like our friend Trig from Winston, Brooklyn, like I think he makes some of the best, just really good food. Yes, it's Taiwanese and he's like a white boy that makes Taiwanese food, but it's really good. So where do and I'm down for it all day, and I respect that. And I think what Chow was saying, like he attributes, he's always like, I'm learning, and he's always respectful of culture, which I really think he does it really well. So yeah, I think that's a very like always conversation that we'll have going forward.
Yeah, it sounds like it comes down to attribution, as the Boba Guys speak to so well in their book, and the depth and context, and sort of giving, it sounds like what you guys are saying, sort of giving the context around the content that people are presenting and not really putting up walls around it, but also, you know, going back to what Anita was saying about also that the people who are given the opportunity to present this material, that it's not, you know, it's not always a non-Asian person presenting Asian recipes. There's always sort of like, there's enough space for everyone, but making sure that the people whose heritage it is are getting that space as well.
And getting the money as well.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean,
Chinese,
yeah, no, and I also found what was really interesting in Andrew and Bin's cookbook. They have a whole section where they talk about choosing their co-writer, and that they specifically, they said something that I think a lot of other, like I've heard the opposite from other authors, where they wanted someone who, and you guys can speak to it, who's non-Asian to sort of expand sort of their view. Do you guys want to talk about that at all?
Yeah, I mean, in the book, we kind of illustrate it in this kind of analogy. Those with iPhones or Android will kind of understand, but there's like the green text bubble, and then there's the blue text bubble. And, you know, if you're on the iPhone, you know, you have the blue text bubble, and, you know, you can do a couple more things. You can do the animojis, you know, the texts are a little bit more rich. You can do like, there's just a lot more nuance to it. There's features that you can only get on the iOS. But if you're on Android, the message still gets across, but there's a lot of things lost in there. And so we might be saying the same thing, but it won't have the same accents. It won't have the same emoticons. And then that's kind of how we kind of positioned a lot of our writing and our recipes too. And so when we were choosing who to write the book with, we wanted someone that would actually not have just the exact same experience as us. And so we actually sought out someone that was going to be more of a green text bubble. And so Richard said it point blank, you know, he's like, hey guys, I mean, I grew up in LA. I'm a super white guy. I mean, my family goes all the way back to the Revolutionary War. So I'm as white as you can be. But I'm very passionate about food. I'm very passionate, you know, he wrote for Lucky Peach, and I'm very passionate about Asian food as well. And I would love to learn more about your culture. And I think we can see it in a lens that so much of America really embodies. You know, I think if we had hired someone that was more similar to us, we would be preaching to the choir a bit. And so we actually needed that viewpoint that Richard brought to it to really show the world that, you know, our mission is to bridge cultures. We need someone that could sit on that side of the fence.
We also want to be two Asian guys that gave a white guy a job.
Yeah.
All right.
Especially with all that's going on right now.
The job market is hard out there right now.
For the white guys, yeah.
So we have a question. Did you need all the help? So we have a question from the audience, a question from Annalisa. How has identifying as AAPI inspired or empowered you as a chef? Does anyone want to go first?
I don't know if
Anita.
it's obvious we're Asian. I'm always kind of saying to people, well, you know, I don't know if you noticed, but I'm Asian. and it, you know, I have to tell you, for a long time, I felt like Asian book sales would not be as strong as they are now. And I've been writing books for a long time, and my first book came out in 2006. I was looking around and I was always like, damn, you know, like I just rarely see Asian books get the spotlight when the books come out. And it really pissed me off. I'm like, where are the Asian people? Why don't, you know, they buy books? And then why aren't people who are not Asian interested in what we have to say? And I would start counting who in food media was Asian. And I was like a bean counter. And I kept looking and I was like, you know, we're good in math, but does that really mean that we always end up in the test kitchens? And I mean, it's been around a long time too. And you start noticing, you start counting people. But what happened, you know, in the last, say, 5 to 8 years is that, you know, there have been more people coming up, a new generation of people who are outspoken, who are going out, you know, doing more than just test kitchen stuff, and writing and editing and rising up, and photography. And I feel like, you know, API is like really a thing now. You know, we're hot. We're exciting to people. We're not just exotic, but we are really exciting.
We're the crazy rich Asians.
Right. We're trending, and we're not gonna go away.
Anyone else? Archana, I know that, you know, with your book, the Indian Instant Pot book, Essential Indian Instant Pot, what you've done is really, through an appliance that is so popular commercially across many, many cultures. But there's this like really interesting connection between Indian food and the Instant Pot that I feel like has introduced Indian food to an even wider audience.
Right. I mean, growing up, pressure cookers were very common in India. My mom cooked with pressure cookers, so did my grandmother, partly because we eat a lot of lentils and beans, and there's this concept of not eating raw food. So you pressure cook basically everything to get the germs out of it, or whatever it is. You pressure cook your meat, your chicken, your fish. So I grew up with pressure cookers, and when Instant Pot came, I was already used to pressure cookers, but I bought it from the safety point of it. And to teach my boys, who were then 10 and 12 years old, to how to cook. And I just thought that it was so safe that anybody can adopt. And it also took away a lot of steps, a lot of pots and pans, and cooking something first in the pressure cooker and then tempering it in something else and then mixing. So I was able to bring in a lot of recipes and like really make them one pot and really simple, take away a lot of the steps and let the pressure cooker do a lot of the work, blend in the flavors, cook it, and it's cooked fast. All the flavors are sealed in, the spices are sealed in, and the flavors were amazing. And that is where I think I had like a huge advantage in my timing when the Instant Pot came out and when I started doing my short videos with Indian food, and people connected with it very quickly because one, the Indian audience was used to the pressure cooking concept, and the people who were not used to the Indian food all of a sudden were like, oh my God, it's so easy to make palak paneer in Instant Pot. And so it became an instant hit.
And Archana, I feel like you probably dealt with this in your recipe development for the book, and everybody for their cookbooks. It's sort of balancing this idea of accessibility versus authenticity, and in thinking of who the audience is for the book and what substitutions are okay and which ones aren't. Like, is there a line for that? Does anyone want to speak to that of who they really saw as their audience? Where are they shopping? What's accessible to them, and is there a place where it feels like, okay, like if you don't have kimchi, you're not going to make the kimchi stew, but maybe you can sub this for that. And does anyone want to speak?
So I personally don't go for super traditional recipes. That's just not me. So most of my Indian food has a modern take on it. So I never will say, oh, you need to have like 12 spices to get this dish right. My whole goal is, what are the least number of spices I can use to bring in the same flavor that my mom had? Because I myself don't have time to gather all those ingredients and figure it out every single day, especially when I was working and my boys were little and I came home at 6 and we had to eat in like 45 minutes to an hour. So I personally, more than substitutions, I found the key ingredients and sort of stuck to those. And then just trying, and my big thing, like with Indian food, everybody's like, I don't like curry, I don't like spices. Well, none of those things are important to me. It's whatever is the main ingredient you're using. It could be spinach, it could be fish, it could be chicken. I want to bring in the flavors of that. And the spices are just complementing. They're not overpowering your dish. So with my food, there is a lot of substitution. You don't have the Kashmiri red chili powder, use paprika. You don't like spicy, don't put it, So I think my personal recipes are to make Indian cooking very easy and accessible to a lot of people.
Did I answer that? Okay. Yeah, no. Okay.
I have a ton of substitutions and technical tweaks in my recipes over time because people, they don't follow recipes, that. I mean, they're always, but they need recipes because especially when you're doing something unfamiliar, like with Alana, it's like the Mochiko, it's like you have to get that flour. It's not going to work unless you have Coda Farm, Blue Star, Mochiko flour. And but there are a lot of parameters, and I think that we need to think about cooks' realities and allow them to play and tinker, but set a foundation. And so I spend a lot of time grocery shopping wherever I go to a different city, in the Midwest, in the South, Northeast, and on the West Coast, to see what people can buy at a regular supermarket, as well as Walmart, as well as indie grocers and Whole Foods, because I'm very curious. I want people to make this food and bring it into their lives and keep it there. So, I don't think that it's dilution, but it's actually cooking smart, the way my family did when we came here, and we just mined the grocery store to make Vietnamese food.
And Andrew and Ben, I know in your book you speak really wonderfully about the idea of the third culture, which I actually have never heard of before. Being a Chinese American kid who grew up in the suburbs, but I would love for you to speak to that, because I think everyone's cookbooks here, even Anita's previous cookbook, Cooking Without Borders, really speaks to that kind of bridging and in between feeling.
Yeah, go for it.
Andrew, Ben?
Well, I think we both have common experiences, including Deuki. I mean, I think it's interesting. Third culture is kind of like, I would say when Alana was talking about her Hawaiian cuisine, it was actually kind of like the closest thing to what I see, where we're Taiwanese. So if you're Taiwanese, whether it's good or bad, we've been colonized by everyone. So the Japanese, the Dutch, the Chinese all came into the island. In Hawaii, that's a blend of many different cultures. So a lot of people call the term like where you have American culture and like an immigrant culture, wherever you're from, Armenian, Egyptian, French. When you come to America, you come both with the American culture, which is kind of like hard to describe even that, and then your immigrant culture. And then you become a third culture viewer where you see kind of the combination of both, which you see now in different cuisines. And so I think including our drink, we don't say we're a Taiwanese drink. We essentially, most people say we're like the next Blue Bottle. So we took the aesthetics and the culture and the, what you would call bougie, single origin. We have we are vertically integrated. We use organic milk. We make our own everything in-house. And so we took that part that looks like a Blue Bottle, but then it also has the ethnic base of, like we have ube drinks, a banana milk that Deuki made so famous, which comes from generally Korea or Southeast Asia. And so when you look at those things that we try to introduce, we've been seeing that we have this third party viewer. And up until literally probably last year, I felt like it was an outsider, but especially with what's going on with, I don't want to get into other authors, but and who gets to make ethnic food. The third culture is almost becoming the authority because we're far away removed enough that we can look objective and say, hey, like we're not here to keep the status quo, and the status quo across the board is being ruined. So the third culture people, like Andrea, like all the books that you have, and I was looking at all the different books that you had. I was like, wow. Like, how many times have you learned what Vietnamese cuisine is through someone who as prolific as her work? And if you have that right now, in the past, you wouldn't have the ability to be an authority, but now you can say, well, like in the past, probably a white person wrote the book on pho. Now we have our people reclaiming it, and then you have that distance that it won't look like we're self-serving. It's just saying, hey, this is the culture. Now I'm here to claim it. So when you do that, I think we're in this age where third culture is going to be the dominant culture. And sadly, for the incumbents, I think it'll be really hard. I think it'll be really, really hard for some people, because I think the status quo is literally, as we speak, being torn down.
And Anita, I know in your first book you talk about, Cooking Without Borders. fusion cooking is cooking. Fusion cooking is, at some point, the idea of fusion cooking really got a bad rap. Do we think that fusion cooking that's coming back, the term, and is it okay, or is it just sort of has a different disguise?
I mean, semantics are based on, who on the general populace and how we're using these words. But I have always said that all food is fusion. When you talk about authenticity, I don't believe that word really means very much. And it's like, what is authentic? Authentic to whom? I mean, like a lot of us are, like you talk about the third culture. Yeah, I mean, I would broaden that actually. I think, until I don't know, I don't really like to think in boxes because I don't think any one person really fits into a box. And I think we're all such individuals that, to really tell our stories, like I get you have to use adjectives to describe us, but it is also truncating what the real meaning is. And I think it's more important that we try to, expand our minds to the reality of things. I'm not quite sure what the question was here, sorry. But I just, I think, I do think, you were talking earlier about authenticity and creating things. And I think, and substitutions, but, necessity is the mother of creation, right? I think food is evolving all the time, just like language is evolving. And, if we don't, especially now in the time of COVID-19, no, I mean, I'm stuck out here on Long Island. I can't get everything that I used to be able to get when I was in Manhattan. I'm gonna make it a little bit different. And and I was really excited to see that, Andrea was using that, I'm not gonna pronounce it wrong, the Tuong Toi Vietnam. I used to use that a long time ago. Like, I had a restaurant called, it wasn't my restaurant, but I was a chef of a Vietnamese restaurant called Ken. And it was a French Vietnamese restaurant, and we used to use that. So.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. All right, I will end it with what we're running way over, but I'll end it with one fun question from in the audience, Colleen, who asked, what are you indulging in during quarantine cooking?
Absolutely everything. Anything that will make you happy at this time is worthwhile at this point.
Deuki, are you indulging in anything right now?
I'm indulging in Chef Anita Lo. I just want to say, like, she's a legend in like the near. I mean, she's a legend in the industry in general, but
she's a legend.
Like, I don't think people understand that Chef Anita Lo is in the house right now. And like for me as a young cook, 2005, 2004, when I started cooking, I think Anissa was already open. Like it was already like the hottest. So like it's cool. It's like seeing like your role model, like your legend, like a legend speaking right now. So I'm just indulging in. Leave me be.
Love you and love your food.
Love you, chef. Love you.
Cheers.
Alana, is there anything that you're indulging in LA right now?
I made these like potato momos last night from my friend Hetty, and that felt pretty indulgent. It was like carbs on carbs with cheese. It was really good.
That is the perfect thing. And Archana?
Oh, lots of food. Like Alana said, lots of carbs, rice, breads, naans, homemade breads, parathas.
Yeah,
but I feel
amazing.
Although it's like indulgent, it's also healthy when you're making it at home and you know the ingredients that are going in. Lots of baking, everything.
All the carbs.
Yes.
To keep us going. And Andrea?
Ritz crackers,
Oh yeah.
creme fraiche, salmon eggs, and champagne.
Ooh.
Chives
I
from the
want to be
garden.
there. Can I be in your pod? Can I be in your
You know, once a week it's really nice. On a Monday, maybe.
What's Monday? What's
What is it?
that
All a mush.
sounds amazing. And then Andrew and Ben?
For me, it's probably a lot of quarantine cooking. My wife does all the cooking in the house, but I have been doing a lot of like line cook sous chef duty. So I'll basically do all the ginger, all the onions. I'll do that for the week, and so it's been fun. I think between the two of us, Andrew probably cooks the most at Boba Guys with all the product stuff, but.
I'm not even a good cook. I mean, again, we have like a lot of legends on this, so there's definitely no. I'm not going to even talk about my cooking, but I will say I am. My wife and I, we have sourdough, so our starter. It's Ruth Gator Ginsbread, which is my favorite name. So I've been doing carbs as well.
Amazing. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Oh, we're going to announce our raffle winner who's winning all of your cookbooks, Irene Quilino. And to remind everyone of the amazing books that Irene is getting, we've got the Boba book, we've got Vietnamese Food Any Day, we've got Solo from Anita Lo, we've got Koreatown, we've got Essential Indian Instant Pot, and Aloha Kitchen. Thank you, everyone, so much. This was such a wonderful night. All of your recipes and your demos were so great. And thank you so much.
Thank
And
you.
I'll just quickly say, this is John Clinton again with Penguin Random House. Thank you, Jennifer, for moderating and shepherding everyone through all these amazing cooking demos.
Thank you, Jennifer.
That was my got to drink.
It's been a super fun event, and actually all of us on the production team have been very impressed with all of your camera setups and your camera helpers. It's been quite impressive. Thanks everyone for watching. You've been a great audience, lots of great questions and commentary. And just to let you know, we'll be sending a follow-up email through Eventbrite with a link to the recording of today's event. It'll also include links to each of these authors' fantastic books, so you can learn more about them and purchase them on penguinrandomhouse.com or wherever books are sold. So thanks everyone. Thanks to all the speakers, and have a great evening.
Thanks everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.